County Rules Review Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the committee?
Ms. Esther, are we going to be able to address after the meeting?
Yes.
Push your button.
We are going to try to get out of here a little earlier tonight because of the cleaning crew having to stay so late. So I was going to say that at the end of it, but I'm afraid I'll forget. So I'll just go ahead. We'll try to, when we get finished, we'll clear out so they can do their jobs.
You're saying we can make comments at the end as opposed to now?
I think we can, sure.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in the past couple of meetings that we've had, we were able to discuss the pros and cons of all the different aspects of the rules that we have. And tonight, I would like to try to get to a point where we can move things forward. So in the review of the discussions that we have had so far, it sounds like what we started with on the public committee, public comments guidelines, they've been pretty good, and we are allowing people to speak and be heard, and then we are allowing the commission to make our comments during the meeting. So we really are not deviating very much from the rules that we had in place. Do we have any motions of any modifications that someone would like to make to the current public comment guidelines?
I have one. It was brought to my attention, maybe everyone else also, when our citizens get up to speak, we ask obviously for their name and address. And I feel like some are a little bit hesitant about the address because, you know, that's kind of saying, I live here. If you don't like what I say, come to me. I don't think that should be a requirement. I do believe that they should be a citizen of Hamlin County. If they are an out-of-county person that wants to speak, then they need to get prior permission through the mayor's office. And I know that I talked, well, Chris was waiting for you to bring it up, actually, but we'd talked about that, and I thought that was an outstanding point. But I think we need to do away with the address.
Okay.
One addition to that might be, and maybe they don't even know their district, but the commissioner might be not aware that that's one of their constituents. You know, maybe not an address, but a resident of the county and what district. I don't know if that's something to consider.
That would be good.
I think that would be great. I think that would be hard.
It will, Nancy, I got you, because now
Yeah,
everyone
I
knows.
just think that would be hard. I do agree with doing away with the address. I mean, I talked to some people out here today, they don't have a problem with it, but the fact is there's some people that really don't want to give their address, and there are reasons that they don't want to get it. It's not, you know, it's not anything shady, it's just, you don't want to give your
And they
address.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah, I agree not to speak, so.
Well, Bobby, do you want to move formally on that?
I make that a motion, yes.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to remove the address as a requirement.
Question.
But we include county resident in that question, don't we?
Let me amend my motion to remove the address, and they must be a county resident to speak at the public.
I'll accept the amendment.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Neesmith?
My question was, why couldn't you just have them give their name and what district they're in? District 4, District 14?
Some people don't know their district. I mean, they just don't know their district. So now you're up here, people are stumbling, trying to figure out which district they're in. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying I wouldn't put that stipulation on somebody and then require, you know, them feel like they couldn't speak because they didn't know their district. Because if it was me, I'd just say any district. I'd be like, I don't know what it is.
Oh, man.
So we have a
That'd be
motion and
true.
a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. Do we have any other recommendations for modifications of the current public comment guidelines?
Now, I'd like to make or create a discussion again. I want to keep comments just as they are for the most part. I agree with speaking on items on the agenda. I agree with public comments at the end of the meeting. I'm suggesting that possibly we create, that everyone has 3 minutes for visitors alike. Everyone's treated fairly, everyone's treated the same. And the way we have it now, you can sign up and get 5 minutes. We've got visitors that may come at a particular time and not realize that, so I ask that we create 3 minutes for each and every one wanting to speak.
Do we have discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 minutes, I think 3 minutes, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with 5 minutes. I'm kind of wordy sometimes. I know that sometimes meetings can get long, but most of the time they don't. I mean, you're not going to have overly long meetings. So I think that if you limit somebody to 3 minutes, I think that's kind of short. You get people up here who maybe are not as comfortable to speak. It's going to take them a couple minutes to get warmed up before they can really tell you what they want. And I think they have the right to do that. I do think that especially at the end of the meeting, okay, at the beginning of the meeting, I do think that it needs to be agenda items only. And I think it needs to be strictly enforced by whomever is supposed to enforce it. But I do think at the end of the meeting, I think that's your time that you could put something in committee. You have a little more relaxed atmosphere, that you can. Now, I do think at county commission, like David said, that's a very formal time, and it needs to be respected. But I think at the end of the meeting, I just think that if people would act like adults, that you wouldn't even have to put a time limit on person. They would come up and state their stuff. And I don't think that you're going to see many people grandstanding up here. I mean, I think they have a legitimate, from the heart issue if they come up to speak, or I hope they do. So what I would say is I would leave it at 5 minutes. I mean, I would leave it at 5 minutes because I think at the end of the meeting, if Edna has something to say and I'm engaging her, I mean, I just don't think you should be cut off. So but I'm not a commissioner, y'all, so.
Well, you're
Okay.
going to be cut off at some point, whether it's
You
3
are, but-
minutes or 5 minutes.
So let's say that I get 5 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of words. It could be a lot of words. Somebody could speak slower than what we do.
Sure.
But at the end of the meeting, when somebody really has a question about something that's coming up down the road or a concern that they're really concerned with, they need to be heard. And they need to be heard at that time. I'm a huge committee person. I mean, we all know that by now.
And that was my point. The committee meetings is, I think, once you get to commission meetings, especially at the end of the meeting, everything's pretty well wrapped up, except for looking forward, obviously. But I
That's
think
right.
I encourage the committee meetings to cut it loose. But I still think 5 minutes I think it can be done in 3
Yeah,
minutes.
well, okay. I mean, it's your all's vote. It's not mine. I just think 5 minutes. I think you should leave the 5 minutes alone.
Okay, respected.
Mr. Chairman, let me clarify.
First of all, our committee meetings are already 5 minutes. Every committee is 5 minutes, just like up here, we've got 5 minutes. Committees are already 5 minutes, but my concern is if somebody gets up there to speak and gonna speak about 3 or 4 items, they can't get the job done in 3 minutes. And there's been cases like that.
Under the rules as I read them currently, you only get the 5 minutes if you make formal application,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Because that's what we did during your term.
That's to a commission,
Right, not for committee.
not committee, but commission. So,
We've been doing this 5 minutes, get permission, and I've heard no complaint about it.
Well, once again, I'm not a commissioner. I think it needs to be more at the will of the commission. That's just how I felt about it. So, I mean, whatever you all want to do it's your commission.
You brought good points, though.
so do we have a motion in either form? Yeah.
I'm considering what Nancy said, and I agree. I'm just trying to, I've thought about this and thought about it and read some other counties and how they conduct business. And I feel I feel like several of us would think that 3 minutes
What do y'all think?
is good. And in the committee meeting, we do have 5 minutes. If we put that to 3, maybe more will speak. I'm not certain. Committee meetings on agenda items only, I think, I'll make a motion that we create 3 minutes speaking for committees and commission meeting.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, let me clarify again. You can still make a request for 5.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you're,
Yes, forgive me. My motion is you can still make that request for 5 minutes through the mayor's office, but standing committees, each person is allowed 3 minutes. Commission meeting, each person is allowed 3 minutes.
That's the same as it is now.
No, sir, it isn't.
no, it's 5 minutes in the committee meetings
In
now.
committee. You're
Yes.
just talking committee
He's saying
now.
3 minutes on both. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Keshaw?
that is correct, but still you can sign up for the 5 minutes through the mayor's office.
Do we have this may be off track a little bit, but 3 minutes, do we have a way for Ms. Green to bring something to committee? She's got something on her mind, and she gets up, she gets to talk about it. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 35 minutes. But how does that get to the proper, okay?
In public comments, to Nancy's point just a moment ago, in public comments, that public speaker can bring that grievance or idea or whatever it may be, bring it to us, and I think we need to take take that up. If there is an idea, point it to a committee, whatever that may be.
I agree.
Committee, put it in committee.
Yes.
If we have to have a
And that way we
scribe.
can at least address, if that is the issue or what have it be.
Because sometimes these folks come up and talk, and then when they step back, it reverberates for a couple of minutes, and then that's it. So I think we need to have a scribe, someone to say, and again, it'd be really nice if everybody knew their districts, but, okay. You come up and you talk, and she says something, and that scribe says, Edna Green, District 10, 14, 14, and she's got this, okay? And then her commissioner will get that to the proper committee and get it taken care of.
In the olden days, what happens is like if Edna came up with something, then the chairman would know his committees and know which committee this question fit into.
Okay,
So the chairman would say, Commissioner Parkey, I'm gonna put that in your committee.
okay.
And so then that means that whoever the chairman is really does the legwork on that.
As
You know,
long
they
as it
can
gets
ask-
where it needs to
And
be.
that's what it's done. Your chairman is the most powerful person up here. And in that, he needs to run these meetings and run these rules. And so that is what he does, is he puts these in the committees that they belong in.
Good.
Or that's what we used to do.
And that was one of the comments that Chairman Shipley made the other day that I thought had good merit. He was saying that at the end of the commission meeting, when you have time to speak, that's the time to introduce new items
Right.
before the next committee. That way
Right,
we
I
have
agree.
time
I
to
agree 100%.
sort that out and get it to the right place, the right
But I
committee.
have felt like that when the public does talk, that once they leave the podium, that's it. It's not given any consideration, and I think we need to get that to the committee. I mean, the jail committee is a hotbed now. And a lot of things they bring up, it goes to Tim Horner, and they hash it out, good, bad, good, whatever. And then if they do that in committee meeting, then, you know, if it has some credence or merit, then it gets a thought, and if it doesn't, then, and then we move forward. And that way, every idea that's brought up gets due diligence.
Yes. So are you putting that in the form of motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
We've
we have
got
a
a
motion
motion
on the
on the
table.
floor.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm
We've got a
sorry,
motion
Chris,
on the
That's
table.
fine.
that kinda went with what you were saying, but,
Right.
but my whole point was, if we do it that way, then I think 3 minutes might be fine. You know, because they know that she knows then, or not just she, but anybody would know then that it's gonna get to a committee, it's gonna get consideration. And I don't have to get up here and elaborate or call them the powers that be, it's gonna get there.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be, that's the way it's done in legislature at the state and that place up the road up there.
All right, Mr. Neesmith?
The way it is now, as I said before, it's 5 minutes, and what I'm hearing, they want to cut it back to 3 minutes with the authority that they can go before their chairman and get to speak for 5 minutes.
Well, they just fill out the form,
Yeah.
you know, when they get 5 minutes.
But it won't be as necessary, I don't believe, because they know that it's gonna be addressed. They're not just making an emphatic point. They say, this is what's my heart saying. And we know that or they'll know, and they have to have confidence in us at that point that we're gonna get it to the proper committee and it's gonna get due diligence. And they don't have to emphasize things 14 times to get it through our thick skulls. I don't know if you feel that way or not, but then it gets here and it gets to where it's supposed to go. And
Mr.
I
Chairman.
think that helps them and it gets things done.
Ms. Phillips?
So I think my question is, let's say that the 3 minutes here, Edna has something she wants to bring up. She's telling me something. I mean, it could be short. It goes into committee like it should. You know, it should leave this floor, go
Right,
into committee.
exactly.
I do think at committee sometimes 3 minutes may be too short because I'm not sure that every commissioner, like I would just call Edna and say, talk to me about it so I would know what's on her heart, know what's on her mind. So I think sometimes the chairman's going to have to do some kind of work to talk to the person who brought it up so that they know, just because you tell me something, we may be on two completely different
And
pages.
that's very true.
So I think
That's
it's very important that the chairman call and talk to that person or talk to them after the meeting and give them some private, personal time that they can explain to them what they're trying to say. Because not everybody can say what they mean, like, you know,
And,
they
and
just
I agree
can't. So
100%.
I just, I guess that's my.
No, that's great. Phone calls, text messages, emails,
Commissioner
whatever.
Brooks?
Maybe talking after the meeting.
And even talking, yeah, face to face is obviously the best after the meeting, so.
Mr. Chairman, I just think that there's consensus on the Rules Committee that the county commission meeting needs to be a formal process of considering the agenda items,
Amen, yes.
because those items have been through a vetting process. You know, whether they be by committee actions, public notice of the agenda, whatever it is. So, at the end, to your all's points, if there is an item beyond the agenda, then certainly that's the time, as Nancy said, for the chairman he knows his committees and, chairman of committees better than anybody. He would say, thank you for your comment. We'll put that item in the Public Services Committee. So again, that's not a commission agenda item. And it's my view that when you get beyond your formal county commission agenda items, you're out of control.
There you go.
So, and control is maybe a hard word for
No,
that.
but, yeah.
But you have to have an orderly consideration of agenda items that have been through a vetting process.
Absolutely.
So if Ms. Green or anyone came up at the end and said, well, this wasn't on the agenda, but, you know, I drove down Musser Road today and half the road fell out, and I hadn't heard anything about it. I mean, anybody not doing anything about it? Then the chairman say, well, I'm not aware of it, but let's put that in the Public Services Committee, and we'll certainly work with the Highway Department, check on it. But I would just, I think we have consensus that the agenda items on the county commission agenda have to be the only things that are widely discussed.
When we get to that point, I agree.
Mr. Neesmith.
Question to David and Nancy. When you were mayor and you were on a commission, what was the committee, what was the timeline at committee meetings? 5 minutes? You remember?
No, I don't,
I don't think there was
I
a
don't think we
timeline
do
at
because it allowed the chairman to engage with a person who wanted, or just anybody. That was kind of like the time that the public got to come and speak their piece. But it wasn't at commission meetings, and it never should be at commission meetings. I mean, because if you really want something done, that's a working something. I mean, you're gonna have to, you can't do it in 5 minutes.
And you can't do it at the commission meeting.
No, and you can't, just like the 10-day rule. The whole reason we have the 10-day rule is because you can't do it in 5 minutes.
But to Wayne's specific question, I don't believe there was.
I don't think there was.
Were time parameters.
My thing was, this has been in there a long time, I know that 10 or 12 years it's been 5 minutes, and it was put 5 minutes for a reason. That's why I asked y'all, do y'all remember what it
Well,
was?
not at committee.
In committee.
I don't remember I never remember telling somebody,
We're
well, you're
5
done.
minutes, we're 5 minutes in committee, just like our meeting here today is 5 minutes. All committee meetings are 5 minutes.
Well, I just don't remember there
I don't
being,
recall.
Well, and that's the,
What year did you go off?
How long fire was there? I don't know.
There was a gap
it's
between
been
you
on
and
since
I.
2010 is 5 minutes.
how long have you been on?
And this is my first term.
Well, I left in 2010,
The
so.
term before Tatiana.
What was that?
Must have put the 5 minutes.
I didn't
in.
hear Howard, what was that?
I said it's been that way ever since 2010,
Been 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So we have a motion for 3 minutes and an extension with 5 if requested
For committee and commission.
for committee and commission. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second the motion because you're allowed to have 5 minutes if you need it by process. And it does standardize the amount of time you have at both.
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not,
Let me ask a question here now. We're talking about committee and
And
commission
commission.
meetings. We have a process for commission meetings for additional 5 minutes. Are we going to extend that process to the committee meeting?
Yes,
based on
sir.
this motion, we would.
All right,
That is what,
that's correct.
everyone has 3 minutes. If they want the 5, they schedule
request it.
through
Okay.
the committee or the commission. I'm not trying to take away the 5 minutes. If someone wants it, it's there.
We may need to change the timeline for committee meetings because most people will not know what's on the committee agenda until the agenda goes out, usually on Friday, prior to Monday's meeting. So, they need to respond after that for 5 minutes, to be fair.
Commissioner Hahn?
this is a thought that just went through my mind. And if we give 5 minutes, maximum, that's it, chop it off 5 minutes. If they're done at 3, they sit down. If they're done at 2, they sit down. If they, so maybe we're complicating this a little bit. Maybe we just say 5 minutes and maybe the public realizing that what they're saying is going to get heard and put in committee will make them feel more comfortable. I don't know. because I think we're complicating it, because if, you know, give me 5 minutes and when I'm done, I'll sit down. I mean, that's my thought process on it.
I do not want to complicate.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to lead
What do you
public
think?
speaking. I mean, I get your point. I understand, and the truth of the matter is, each year, you know, moving forward, I see us working on local rules, maybe 2 months into a new commission being seated, and it can always be revisited. So it's a working process. As someone brought up, you know, we can't be bound, I think Nancy did initially, we can't be bound from one commission to the next.
Exactly.
So, you know what, I'll rescind and leave committee or public speaking as is.
At 5 minutes.
And we'll see how it goes with the addition that we're looking to add of
Thank you.
a better work for the public to have their input heard by the committee chair.
Be a good
So,
relationship
so,
builder, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I'll rescind my motion.
Okay, and would you like to make a new motion?
We can keep public comments as is.
Okay, specifically to,
Specifically, that is 3 minutes per speaker unless scheduled through the mayor's office, they get the 5. And committee meetings, they have the 5 minutes.
we have a motion. Is everyone clear on the motion?
I-
Do we have a
I
second?
think so. I want to make it clear in my own mind. Committee's going to stay at 5 minutes. Commission's going to go to 3 minutes, but you can put in a request to speak an extra 2 minutes.
Correct.
It's just like it is right now.
Same as it is right now.
Nothing's changed.
So we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
You can't second, Wayne.
Have to be on this committee.
I'll second it.
All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. Okay, on the second item, location of public cameras, and this is video recording devices. Do we have any motions for that, or any discussion?
I make a motion that we stay with the current rules. That cameras are in the back of the courtroom in a designated spot.
Do we have any other, do we have a second?
I'll second.
You got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Newsome?
Question, the way it is right now, we're committed for 8 months that they can take videos for their
5
session.
more.
Is that in writing? No? I mean, is that in a meeting that we've decided that? I'm a little lost on this, so that's just more of a question. So
Chairman
where,
Shipley?
It's just an agreement between the chairman and Mrs. Noe, myself, that I made. I don't remember it being 8 months. I thought it was through the month of April. I'd have to check back with the minutes on that, but anyway.
I think it was August.
Or until we got the cameras.
It was 8 months.
Situated back there, we already did that, we got a secondary back here, so, I think they're supposed to move back there. We never did.
But then you've also got the issue that the sheriff will not enforce the rules of the body until a judge orders him to. And so, right now, you know, you can't enforce it because the sheriff refuses to do so.
Which is another significant point. Do we need to have a different view of how we deal with that? Should we have the officer assigned to this type of? Mr. Horn?
Normally, we do have an officer or a bailiff that's with the sheriff's department here to enforce. I mean, rules and are no good if you don't have any enforcement. It's like the speed limit, you know.
do you have a microphone?
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, we need to be able to enforce the rules that we set. It's kind of like the speed limit, it's 55, but if nobody enforces it, it's not worth a hill of beans. So I would like to see us go to maybe a sergeant of arms. I think the federal courts do that, maybe. You can correct me on that. That is authorized through the commission to uphold the rules of this body.
Would this be a specific person that comes to every meeting, or would this be,
I'm going to check with CTAS to see.
And they're a bonded officer type thing?
It
where-
would be a bonded officer.
You're talking about just like an off-duty officer?
Yeah, because so many times we don't have the same person here, or we don't have one. And I just think, we need somebody that's going to be here. If it is designated, we can do that as a body.
so you will be checking with CTES?
I will check
or
with
you like-
CTAS to
okay,
see
okay,
if it is possible. It may not be. I'm just,
Okay. Very good. So going back to location of the public cameras, is there a compromise that would work for this time period until we make a rule? Ms. Phillips?
Okay, so I think that when you have an agreement, whether it be a gentleman's agreement in writing, it's still an agreement. So I think you need to go back and look and see what the agreement is. And if it truly says that she has until a certain date, which I personally think you need to be in the back because those are the rules, I'm a real big rule keeper. But I also think that when you make a deal with somebody, that you need to honor that. That's just a personal opinion, guys. That's just a personal observation. If I tell you that you can do something till August, I may hate your guts, but I've told you can do it till August, and you need to be able to do it till then. If there's stipulations, if there was rules set, like if we get the camera stuff set up, if we buy this new stuff, and if everything's working great, then you have to move, then I think that's completely different than telling somebody they can do something. So I think on this particular one, you can pass that rule, but I do think you need to go back and look in the minutes and see what it actually says regarding this agreement.
I'm pretty certain that it was August, it's through August meeting. And the idea was that we implemented our own system and posted on YouTube.
Yes.
But we had granted Ms. Noy redundancy, just in
Well,
case.
did you grant it with any stipulations?
I do not recall that.
But
And
that's
the
what
min-
needs
the-
to be
the
looked
minutes
at.
will have to be looked at. I do not recall stipulations.
But
on
I
that.
think as far as passing this, you can pass this and go back and look at that, because that's an agreement.
But-
I
but-
agree that, that's, yeah.
But everyone else, doesn't have that agreement.
Yeah.
It was only for Mrs. Noy.
Well, then you make them follow the rules. I mean, the rules are the rules, but I do think if you've told this woman that she can sit here, not this woman, I'm sorry, if you told Linda that she can sit here till August,
Nicest
then,
thing I've been called.
then,
Right,
that's an agreement.
right. And, yeah, I'd have no problem with that agreement.
Mr. Chairman, without this interesting discussion, because I'm not familiar with that agreement, but is this a fair statement? An agreement was made between the parties and the chairman, possibly through August. And then if the various steps were put into place, the cameras would move to the rear. Is that a fair statement? Is that the agreement?
I think so.
To the best of my knowledge.
Chairman
that's what I
Shipley,
read.
is that the agreement?
Okay, and is it fair to say that the steps have been put in place or are close to being put in place?
Yes.
Okay. Then would the affected parties still demand to go to August, or since the agreement's in place, would they agree to move to the back now since the things have been put in place?
The agreement, the way I understand and the way I remember, was only with Mrs. Noy.
Okay,
And the rest of the cameras, there was no agreement with anyone else
I
other
understand.
than Mrs.
I
Noy
understand.
for the August time.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
I think your concern now deals with the rule. The enforcement will have to come later,
Yes.
after the agreement has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fair to state, but this has been a topic and controversial even, but it's not to limit. I found a video from several years ago, and I think, in fact, it was a video from Mrs. Noy. And I watched that intently because of the comments, you know, they can't see, they can't hear, they can't, you know, and they need to be. So this video, this particular one, was taken from the rear of the room. And it was very audible. I could see what was going on. That's my opinion. It was on YouTube. You can still find it if you want. I don't recall the year, but I think, I'm sorry, I don't want to state, I don't know what year. But it was taken from the rear of the room, and that's what proved to me, this is not detrimental to public knowledge.
No, I just think if that's the rules, and that's where you need to be. But I do think if there was an agreement between two people,
Oh,
then I think
yes,
it needs to be
yes.
honored. So if you want to put them at the back, I mean, we've got Jack's at the
Yeah.
back where they spent $50,000 on this equipment. The new microphone was put up there at the podium thing. So, and the fact is, it's for the commissioners. Y'all can't be reared back in your seat and be listening because we can't hear you. So you have to talk into your microphone. And I know that
I agree.
I was guilty of that too.
Right.
But, I mean, I think for now, I think all we're doing is looking to pass, if this is a rule that we are going to
Absolutely.
keep, and if indeed it is, we need to go ahead and pass it.
Right.
And that agreement between Ms. Noe and the chairman, that has nothing to do with what we're doing right now.
Okay.
And it
concur.
excludes everybody else, right?
According to.
That was just between Ms.
yes,
Noy and Mr. Shipley.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, was there a motion and a second?
Yes, sir.
There was a motion. and a-
Motion and a second.
And a second.
Then for discussion, just a couple other things I would note. There is a position for cameras with Congress. There is position for cameras with the General Assembly. And those cameras are not up front.
Right.
They are not allowed in the General Assembly committee meetings or the meeting of either the Senate or the House. They have designated areas, and they are not allowed up front. One of the reasons being that you don't know that they're obstructing the vision of people who are in the audience. So I would just note that for the record, that that's a standard if your environment exists for it to be something that doesn't cause a problem otherwise.
Well said. And Ms. Phillips had sent some Westlaw documentation of what the Tennessee Attorney General had said on it. And there is a statement here that says, "This office is further of the opinion that city governing bodies may regulate the use of such devices, but only in a manner reasonably calculated to serve the public safety and welfare or interest in conducting efficient and orderly public meetings." So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Having none, motion carries. Item number 3 on the 10-day rule. In our last discussion, we had some variances there that I think should probably be documented so that we are well understood in the clarity of our rule. And so does anyone have a motion on the 10-day rule that would address either holidays or those other circumstances?
I'd like to make a motion that we make it a minimum of 7 days after, following a committee meeting where that particular item has been discussed.
7 days after the committee meeting.
And that particular item has been discussed.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
What is the distance between your committee meetings and county commission now?
Okay, it's 10 days
It
currently.
is 10
and-
days?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, inclement weather could play a part.
Sure.
I see,
Sure.
I know we can always set aside a rule. I don't want to set aside a rule. I'd like to make a blanket where we don't have to set aside a rule and it appear that we're trying to cover. That's not what I'm about. And therefore, that's why I look at 7 days as the bigger window. If we had a committee meeting on a Monday, we're good for 10 days. But if something, for whatever reason, we don't get to meet until Tuesday of that week, it's 9 days. We've got our information, we've got the agenda item, and we can take that all the way to the next. It's only 9 days. Well, to follow the letter of the law, we can't vote on that. And we'd have to set aside that rule. I don't like that. I don't like that we're put in that position to do business in an orderly manner. I've got my information, we've discussed it, the public's had their input. I see no problem.
Yeah, I think the general consensus was for something of that nature to happen. We just need to have the verbiage in place so that when the situation comes up, we can say the reasons why.
I'm willing to change my verbiage. That was off the cuff as far as the actual statement, but yet that's my intent. 7-day minimum rule, following committee, that particular item has been discussed.
Ms. Phillips?
Okay, this is something that I think we got, that I want to read. It says the 10-day rule was discussed at some length. Quite honestly, I think this period should be shortened. It is quite uncommon that the period between the committee and the commission meetings is less than 10 days, and it never comes as a surprise. The rule can simply be changed to allow for a shorter period when the holidays disrupts the regular schedule. And I think that the thought process of this was to keep those holidays so that you don't have to suspend the rule to make sure that you can get your days in because you're missing it by 1 day. As Commissioner Doty pointed out, this really only happens in October. Surely we don't need to drastically change such a good rule to accommodate something so foreseeable. There have, however, been times when Commission truly does need to act immediately, perhaps to appropriate funds to cover expenditures following an emergency in the county. So I will propose an emergency action. Now, this is what I was received. I got this from a citizen, so that's why I'm reading this. So I would propose an emergency action rule would be allowed to allow the suspension of regular rules such as a 10-day rule in order to respond to an actual emergency, such as a natural disaster. In order to prevent abuse of such rule, I would suggest the prerequisite condition for its use be a declaration of state of emergency. So I just wanted to read that because if someone took the time to send this to me, I think that we need to hear this, and it
Right.
does kind of pertain to the 10-day rule.
Right.
So,
And I agree with his statement. Emergency can be arbitrary unless it is an actual state of emergency.
yes,
It can be arbitrary.
Yes.
What's an emergency for me may not be for others.
yes.
And that's why, again, that I would present a 7-day minimum following committee where the item has been discussed.
And I actually think these are almost two different things.
Yes,
I think,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
after hearing a comment from the public, I think it was at the last meeting, I would strongly urge the committee to consider inserting the word calendar days
Calendar days.
for clarification purposes, because, that does include holidays, so calendar days I would recommend that.
So do we, are you putting that in would you like to put that in a motion?
No, I'm not
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah, I'm sorry. All right.
I'll put that in the form of a motion, that we,
Can you restate it then, please?
Let's see, you have a motion on.
you already
I
have
have
a
a
motion.
motion
Do
on
you
the
want to amend
floor.
your motion? Yeah.
I can amend my motion to be calendar days that are counted, not just business days, but calendar days. Again, if it follows a committee meeting is the idea. If it follows a committee meeting, we've had the information in hand, we've discussed it in committee, the public's
Right.
had their input. We have it. What difference does it make if it's over a weekend where I do a lot of my study anyway on Saturday and Sunday afternoon? So I feel that calendar days should be included in that amendment.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
good
Mr.
discussion.
Neesmith?
Question. 10 days, that also will cover the time it takes to go in a newspaper. 10 days, or we say 10 days, it's got to be publicized before we can do anything, any votes on any contracts. And if you look at the paper, like, you know, this has been out of whack for nearly a year because we don't get the paper on Monday. You get the paper Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Because the Sunday paper falls on a weekend. So we've not been getting 10 days.
I don't think the
All along.
10-day rule has anything to do with newspaper advertisement. It's for commission members, a
To
rule
consider.
that they have to follow. We do have some rules about deadlines to publish certain items. And what is that, 7 days usually? I mean,
10.
I've not heard of 10, I've heard of 7 quite often.
5? Mayor Britton?
Trish? Where's Trish?
Mayor Britton said 5.
5, okay.
It varies?
Y'all, I do think the 10-day rule was for the commissioners.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it was for. It was so that you didn't get something laid in front of you and it was like, surprise, I need your vote now.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. All
So
right.
what are your thoughts about doing the state of emergency? Is that already in place? I mean, I don't want to, this was a question. It's a question I can't answer. You have an answer? I don't have an answer.
My only thought, if the state of emergency came up, then we could meet in emergency session and obviously act. I mean.
So that would like automatically suspend the 10-day rule if you had, if it was
Yes.
actually declared. So do you need to put that in there?
It would make it clearer if we did.
Yeah,
Pretty
I
clear.
agree. Well, make that motion, please.
Okay. Well, I'll second that motion
No,
then.
you make that motion. I mean, you go
No,
ahead.
you're good. I'll second it. I'm good.
Do we have a motion then? And are we?
State it, Nancy, please.
Okay, so
Is this a revision? Because do we need to go back and,
No, this would be an
no,
addition.
this is
In
like,
addition.
it's a new rule, but I think it's really very wise. In the event of a truly natural disaster in which a declaration of state of emergency is issued, the 10-day rule is automatically suspended it would be for emergency expenditures. I mean, if you truly had something catastrophic happen, you can't wait 10 days.
Absolutely.
But I do think that it needs to be, and the way that this was written by this person who sent this, is the prerequisite condition is that there has to be a declaration of state of emergency. So,
I'll second that motion.
we've got a motion, we've got a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Does it have, are we talking about a federal disaster or a state disaster or
Local,
local disaster?
local.
Probably needs to be defined as well.
In our purchasing guidelines, there are provisions for emergency purchases. For example, with flooding, you know, the highway department could go and buy an item that they might need without a purchase order and going through the purchasing process. And even if it exceeded their budgeted amount, come back to the commission. So that's in our purchasing guideline now. There's no provisions for contracts because, you know, contracts rarely come into play in those types of situations. But in our purchasing guidelines, there are provisions for emergency purchases.
so let me ask you this, is this a redundant motion?
No, I mean, I could see where in a state of emergency, if it's over a long period of time, or let's say a 30-day period of time, I mean, we've been in a state of emergency for months over this coronavirus, is there's going to be some contracts, situations that come up. And I don't see any harm in it at all. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that there are provisions for emergency purchases.
Okay, so I would like to only state that I don't think that a state of emergency during a coronavirus thing should be used to dump the 10-day rule if you want to sign a contract.
True.
So I think you're talking about flooding, a building falls in, we have an earthquake. For some reason, we have a hurricane, a tornado, a cyclone, whatever else you can think of that would be more of a natural disaster
Natural disaster.
than the
Act of God.
coronavirus.
In the event of natural disaster, where a responsible government official has declared a state of emergency.
Yes. I said what David said, he just always says it better.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion?
Can we read that motion?
Probably not, Wayne, we probably can't read it, because I probably can't read it again.
I didn't know if we could or not.
Did you get the motion, kind of? No? Okay, so David's now gonna make the motion. I'm pulling mine off the floor.
I've got the state of emergency part, I'm not sure I've got the other. The rule is subject to suspension in the event of a natural disaster wherein a responsible government official has declared a state of emergency.
Yep, that's the motion.
That's
Okay,
nice.
that's the motion. That will suspend the 10-day rule.
He's done this before, I
Yes, he
think.
has.
Would the way this 10-day rule falls in October, that would be a little different, wouldn't it?
Well, we're actually considering, it's 7 days.
7 days.
No more than 7 days. Chris, help me with the first part of that.
Minimum of 7 days following a committee meeting where the item has been discussed on the agenda.
7 calendar days. Yeah.
7 calendar days, right.
Okay.
So the way it is right now, that's gonna be once a year,
No, sir.
October.
No, this new motion, Wayne, talks about like if we had something catastrophic happen in our county,
Yeah.
that it automatically overrides the 10-day rules so that you all could do stuff to help the citizens.
Okay.
That's what this rule states. But it has to be done, declared by a responsible government person.
I mean, only certain people can declare a state
Okay,
of emergency.
that would be, that would declare.
That
state
one
of
time, it'll go to 7 days. Instead of 10
But
days,
these are two
it'll
different
go to
motions,
7
yeah,
days.
yeah.
Well, I want to be, I don't want to mislead Commissioner Neesmith. We're talking about 7 days, not 10 days.
Correct.
But those are two different motions. I mean, the one is to take the
Two
10-day
mo-
rule to the 7-day rule and make it a calendar week. So that was the first motion. The second motion was if we have a state of emergency.
That's correct.
That we have, so we have two different, there's two different motions we're looking at. The first one was the 10-day rule, which y'all, we could have called that anything. We called it the 10-day rule
Yeah,
because
could
we
have
didn't know
called it
what else
anything.
to call it. But that rule, but now I do in my heart think that you still need your stuff at that committee meeting.
Understood?
I mean, I don't think that just because y'all have slacked off, I really think you need
Understood.
that stuff.
Right.
And I think that if you find that there's issues with it, I think you need to change it back to 10 days. But anyway, there was two different things.
Okay, Randy, I think what we need to do is vote on 2 separate times.
And well, we voted the first
If
one, and that one has
you
been
vote on
approved.
it-
And now we're voting on the second one if we get beyond discussion,
Okay.
okay? Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign. Motion carries. Number 434 is the adoption of the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order, and that is, I think, that's number 12 now, I think, 12th edition. But that would be superseded by anything that was more current than that.
Mr. Chairman, just to get it on the floor, I would move for the adoption of the latest edition of Robert's Rules and Order.
Got a motion?
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Motion carries. And then item 6, this does not require a vote, I think we have everything to a point now that we can compile the documents that we're wanting to put together to have reviewed by CTAS and then reviewed in final order by,
You're talking about number 5, Mr. Chairman.
Number 5.
well, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, yes. Does anyone approve or want to make a motion that we move this on to the next steps of compiling the, all of our rules and our policies and, our procedures?
So move, Mr. Chairman, that we do so.
Okay,
I'm going to second so we can get to discussion.
okay.
So some of these other things that we had talked about, are we going to even look at those at all? I mean, like the
Yes.
parliamentarian, where are we going to look, I mean.
I was coming to that one too.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
like the
No, go ahead.
parliamentarian. And check to see if the clerk can actually open the meeting. You'll have to do that probably through CTAS, but check to see if the clerk can open the meeting in case of an election year and you lose your chairman and vice chairman. I mean, then you got the person who will probably be there. Enforce the rules you have. Guys, as a citizen, as a former commissioner, I cannot emphasize that enough. Enforce the rules you have. Check the rules annually to see if they're still the same. Each commissioner should receive a packet with the standing rules. Publish the rules on the website for public speaking. And on number 3, on your public speaking, where it talks about that you don't need to get up here and berate people like slander and all that, that needs to be stopped. Because I'm here to tell you right now, that flat dab needs to be stopped. And if you don't, and also, you do realize in this, if your chairman doesn't want to stop it, a commissioner can bring it to the floor.
It's on our rules.
I mean,
yes.
that needs to be stopped. So, and I do think that people who are speaking in county commission meeting, and I think that this is something that needs to be remembered, because I may not come back, I may be done tonight with this whole thing, is that you need to be able to talk without being interrupted, and I'm notorious for that. What else was there? Because I'm trying to get some of this stuff out that this person told me just today. Is there anything else you all can remember that somebody's talked to you about?
There's
I think
one
these are-
thing, where the time-honored tradition of committees, that we allow anyone, from the commission to bring something to the floor to change the rules, calendar rules, and, or to add something to the agenda. You know, and I suggest that we look at that someone, brings something up that particular day, that we take a 2/3 vote, and if it's that important and 2/3 vote for it, it needs to be put on the agenda.
On the commission?
Yes.
Yes. Anything can be brought up by a commissioner with 2/3 vote in a commission meeting.
Yes, and I
Yes.
think that needs to be part of our rules, where every voice could be heard.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, we kind of deviated from number 5, but that's okay. But while we're on it, I would hope too, and I'm looking, Chairman Shipley, it may be in here, and I just can't find it right now, but I do think it's important that, whether you're at the podium or otherwise, that you direct your comments to the chairman.
Chairman.
And I would urge the chairman of the commission or the chairman of a committee that when a speaker deviates from that chairman remind the speaker, please direct your comments to the chairman. Nothing good happens when there's a back and forth between a commissioner and somebody at the podium. Nothing good comes out of that, I assure you. So is it in here and I'm just missing it?
No, it's almost at the bottom, a person wishing to address county commission, well, wait a minute. Just read that, speakers must address their comments to the commission chairman rather than to individual members of the county commission or staff.
Okay.
And that may need to be amended to also committee chairman on day of committee.
Well, I think you could take care of that by somewhere along the line making a motion that these rules apply to committees as well as commission meetings.
And that's a good
And I
recommend.
also want to point out, there's something very important, because you know, sometimes as a challenge to the chairman, it's hard sometimes for commissioners to not want to respond immediately. And the rules state that you can't do that.
Right.
So,
Mr. Chairman, let me call the question, if I could, on number 5, so we can vote on it, and call for the question, and then move to hopefully the conclusion here with these other cleanup items. Because number 5 is all positive.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we have a called question, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had discussion. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Perky. Now, then, Ms. Phillips, I think your notes are well understood, and I think that'll be pretty much what we were going to discuss at our next meeting.
Sorry.
I don't know when that next meeting is going to be done yet, because I feel like we need to get some framework around some of what we've already created and utilize our intern to get those, if we have an intern. And Mayor Britton, will that be able to be done? Okay. And then, if it's the will of the committee, we could take all those other items and make that our next meeting prior to finalizing the review of those.
You think you
Yes.
can read them?
I doubt it, but I'll try. Thank you. And then I've got Mr. Cutshaw's recommendation in there too, on the calendar and rules. So we'll use this as our guidelines for our next meeting.
And could you also add what Chairman Shipley just said, that we adopt and make Hamilton County Commission rules the same as for county committee meetings?
I have a question, and this is directed at commission. I mean, we've all said here, y'all have said here, we've said here. Are y'all gonna enforce these rules?
That's the intention.
Yes, no?
Yes.
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 Okay.
That's why we're talking about a sergeant of arms and having this very professional.
I think
it's
that's
necessary.
important. I mean, I think if we have rules, you need to enforce the rules.
Absolutely.
I think it's imperative that we have decorum within this body anyway, because if we speak to each other respectfully, we'll get far more done than if we try to handle it in a more rude manner or, well, without decorum. And I think that that's going to be the primary outcome of this entire committee. So I'm hopeful that that's what we're aiming and we expect to receive out of what we're doing with this entire committee. Okay. So with that, number 6, we will work toward having everything compiled. And
So will that be a finalized meeting, like next meeting?
we will have, I guess we will have 2 more meetings, because we'll have the meeting after we discuss the culmination of these things and approve, and then we'll have to approve. And then, but before that, we will need to have the meeting that discusses these things after we find out some of the other information that we need to know in order to see if CTAS is accepting
Your new
of
best
that.
friend,
I'm sorry?
your new best friend.
Yes. That's right.
So I do have just a quick question. Do you think we will get like an agenda, something a couple of days before?
Yes.
Okay. Because I like to get mine early, so if I have questions, I can try to.
Now, it will not be as quickly as the last 2 meetings have been back-to-back. So we're going to take some time. I assume that we'll have to in order for the intern to compile everything. Is that
Maybe some time before we meet again.
correct? Yeah. And then we should be able to finalize it in just a couple more
Okay.
meetings.
okay,
Yes.
when you start the budget meeting? May, okay.
Are we taking questions now from the people?
Now, it's the time which I don't have this on the agenda, and I apologize, but it's time, if anyone would like to address the committee, you're welcome to address the committee.
My name is Linda Noe, no address.
Not adopted yet.
Got an electric wire around my house. No. I'm very concerned about what you did tonight, particularly the 10-day rule. At one time, it was more like 30 from one commission meeting to the next commission meeting. That's when it got changed or clarified, then I think 2015 or 16, whatever it was. Now we're inching away at it and saying 7 days. And it is for commissioners, but it's also for the public. And as it was pointed out, you don't even get your committee packets, and some of you don't even pick them up until the day of the committee meeting or get them at the committee meeting. But if you picked them up when you could, it would be late Friday afternoon. And you talked about, then you've got a weekend. Well, some people have commitments over the weekend, maybe they don't. And then you've got your committee meeting on Monday. I'm not sure you shouldn't have a 10-day rule before the committee meeting, where you get your committee packet and then deal with it. I heard someone say, really, it never was a 10-day rule because of the weekend and so forth anyway. And now you're not inching, but again, it's the camel's nose in the tent. And I would encourage you to make it more than 10 days. In fact, I guess maybe we should have started out with that as a suggestion, and then you would have cut it back to 10, and that'd be great. But I ask that you consider not tampering with it. It wasn't broken, it didn't hurt you, it didn't delay anything, and you always could suspend it if there was an emergency. But it's just bad business. The other thing I noticed, I assume you were saying you're not going to make any recommendations to the county commission until you have finalized? Is that what you're saying or not?
No, I'm saying that we need to compile these things before we can review them and then make a determination, because you wouldn't want to go to a final draft on the next process.
Okay, we'll just try to answer just what I said. You're not going to make any recommendation on the 10-day rule or on the committee speaking at the next commission meeting?
No,
No.
Okay, it will not be done at the April meeting?
no,
Okay,
no.
I just didn't know if
We're
you...
not
Are you going to
prepared.
come
It's
up
our-
here at the April meeting? Should I come?
You bet I'll be here. God willing, I'll be here. That's the other thing I wanted to clarify. And there are other issues, but I'm going to let them just stew for a while, because it has to do with this committee and the entire commission. Thank you.
Guess we've done something wrong. To you.
I have one quick question. You talked about a sergeant at arms. Is that an additional expense for the taxpayers to fork out to?
I hope not.
We don't need any more Randy. Jens may not like what I'm getting ready to tell you, but the taxpayers in Hamlin County are burdened to the gill. You have folks that are barely surviving on the pay that we have over this virus. We are blessed because we can meet our bills. But I talk to people every day that can't, especially older folks. Thank God older than I am. But anyway, that have to make a decision between food and medicine. So please, be conservative with the taxpayers' money. And one more thing that Ms. Phillips had reiterated, and I'd like to tell her thank you. As commissioners, please take the time to respond. I don't know about the rest of you, but it annoys me to death when I send an email and I can't even at least get a response. It's rude. And yes, I'm complaining, but if I don't tell you, you don't know. But I would appreciate it anytime I send any of you anything. Please, have enough grace to get back to me. If you don't know, tell me where I need to direct my question. There's none of us that know everything except for the good Lord. Thank God he knows it all. But please, I know we need to treat you with respect. It needs to be a two-way street, okay? And I don't mean to be rude. I greatly appreciate how you've done these meetings, and I want to tell you that to your face. I think you need to give people their flowers while they can enjoy them. Thank you for the opportunity. Oh, and I forgot. I'm Edna Green, in case you folks don't know. I'm the pain in the butt.
My name is Gwen Holden, and I live at 8150 West Point Drive. But I didn't live down there when I spoke about Mr. Horner. Voting for him, I didn't vote for him. And I made a mistake. I didn't lie. Because, see, you can go to hell for lying, and I don't want to go there. So I'm trying to make it right and tell you, Mr. Horner, I made a mistake. Would you please forgive me? God already has, because I told him I was sorry too. But I wish y'all would have kept the 10-day rule. You just take things away from us. You just take things away from us. I've had so much taken away from me, it's pitiful. But you know what? God is still good. He's still good to me. He is. And you know, I want to get along with everybody, but I want to be treated fair and done right. I'm a taxpayer. I've worked all my life. I still work. I still pay taxes, and I'm retired, but I still work, and I'm glad I'm able. And I appreciate what y'all do, but y'all could do a better job if you just try. And you're talking about enforcing rules and enforcing laws. Forget that. They never have been, so why should I believe they should start? They never have been, and probably never will be till Jesus comes. Then he'll have the true rules. So, you know, I don't know. I just want things done right. I want the 10-day rule to stay. I just like for things just to stay the way they were. I didn't see anything wrong with anything. You know, we all need an attitude adjustment. So maybe God will yank a knot in our tails. Thank y'all.
My name is Nancy Phillips. I'm not going to give you my address. I have a question about the 10-day rule, and this is something I probably should have asked before. So the 10-day rule, when it was started for committees. You got your packet at committee meeting, and that allowed you the time, so you didn't have to vote on something that you didn't see before the commission meeting. So I'm assuming that's what you all are still getting. So when you change it to the 7-day rule, and I probably should have thought about this before, when are you supposed to get that information if you're not getting it at committee?
You want me to respond?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the rules. I've never been on this side.
I think a response would be good on that because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In my motion, I said at a committee meeting, 7-day minimum, at a committee meeting, after the item is on the agenda and it's been discussed. So I anticipate to have that information at that committee, public had knowledge of it, what we're voting on. I'm not changing anything other than leaving a window minus 3 days. I'm not changing any way we do business.
Okay, so the 10-day rule, like I told David, we called it the 10-day rule because we didn't know what else to call it, actually. So the 10-day rule started just so we got stuff at committee that was going to be voted on at commission. That's the history of the 10-day rule. Mm-hmm. So I think if you did leave it like that you got that information, I think the struggle comes if you have to suspend it. I think we have a lot of commissioners that don't want to suspend the 10-day rule. So why don't you change the name?
Yes.
Just change the name and leave it at committee like it is. I mean, where we get caught up many times is because, oh my God, it says 10 days. If it's not 10 days, if it's 9, we're all gonna go, well, anyway. So there'll be a big issue, and there won't. It was never meant like that. It was just meant so that you got what you were gonna see at county commission, at committee.
Yes.
That's all it was.
That was my amendment.
That's it. So change the name, guys. Just don't call it the 10-day rule and keep getting your stuff at committee.
Well, but technically, we'll have that information almost 2 weeks before we vote on it. So it's not like it's, because we usually get it, I know it looks like we don't carry our books in here, but most of us we go online and get it,
Absolutely.
So saves a trip up to get the book and everything, same thing. So we usually get that Thursday or Friday before a Monday meeting. So like I say, it's pretty close to 2 weeks, the way it is, so it's.
I really think you get caught up in the 10-day.
Yeah,
10-day,
well-
and that was only named that because David
Well, we
can
can name
attest
it
to
the
this.
Nancy
I mean,
Phillips rule or something.
no, we can
Yeah.
name it the Linda Noe rule.
Because the committees were 10 days before.
And that's right, and so that's why I was just counting, when you were talking, I was counting back, because I was like, I know that it had to do with getting your information that you were gonna see in county commission at the committee meeting prior to the commission meeting.
That's it.
That's all it was.
And if that's the reason, then as far as the county commission is concerned, then we have that information
Yeah,
close to
that's,
2 weeks.
that's all it was. It's not some big secret something. That's it. That's all it was.
And to your point, Nancy, that is one of the reasons why I was suggesting 7, because I don't like the idea of not being transparent. I don't want to set aside the rule and the public think, what are they up to now? That's not what I want to do. I want it to be after a committee meeting where that item has been discussed and we have the information in hand. So I'm trying to be very
Okay.
upfront with that.
So I think what's happening is like, when the 10-day rule started, the 10-day rule was for anything that was going to come, and it was mainly contracts and spending money, just to be honest. That's how it started. But it started so that we would have every piece of information that you could possibly have at the committee before you voted on something at commission. Because then if it needed to be put back in committee, you just request it be put back in committee. So I think there's almost 2 different things here. I think you're talking about like the 7-day rule. I mean, you've got that information. You've already got it. So I don't really even see where I just think that we have commissioners that don't want to ever suspend the 10-day rule. And if we called it the on-time and committee packet rule, I mean, the name of it shouldn't make any difference.
I agree,
The
but
thought
we
behind
were,
it is the.
we had to go to task because we voted to keep the 10-day rule, and then the very next thing we did was set the rule aside.
And that's going to happen. That could happen.
But I just feel like this is a way that we can avoid that
'Cause
and not
the Mondays,
show.
yeah.
Excuse me, what was that?
No, because of those, and I understand that, because that makes sense. It's just, I just think the spirit of the 10-day rule needs to stay, that you get your stuff at
Absolutely.
committee.
I do not
Yeah.
agree. I mean, I do not disagree.
I'd change the name.
Okay.
Could we bring that up in the agenda for the next meeting?
I'm sorry, I'm probably completely out of order.
Well, I just want to make sure I have a way to follow through on this, and I think we could bring that as a topic for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
because I think
and
that
vote
the
to
general,
change the
I
name.
think the public thinks that we're trying to do, and it's
Yeah,
not.
you're right.
It's not that. They just don't want to suspend. I've heard commissioners say, I don't want to suspend it.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's going to be plenty of time for additional input, because this committee's recommendations will go to the Calendar and Rules Committee for the commission for discussion there. Public can have input there, and then it goes before the commission meeting. Again, subject to change there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry, Wood?
That's okay. I was gonna say, if nothing else, and that's what I'd been kind of saying, sitting back here.
Who are you?
Here in Norwood. Who are you? I'm sorry. I thought everybody knew me. Ought to by now. But anyway, I mean, if you committee information rule, whatever, I think getting nitpicky down on specific number of days, and I understand what Nancy's saying, that they called it the 10-day rule, but you need enough time. And if you want to call it the committee information rule or whatever, yeah, just change the name. Have enough time to review the information and everything. And then something that kind of back here and in the last meeting that kind of bothered me a little bit is be careful when you compare laws to rules. I think Mr. Hahn, Commissioner Hahn made a comment about if I'm doing the speed limit and somebody passes me doing 80, that doesn't mean that I can speed up and do 80. That is a law. Let's not confuse. I'd prefer to stick to comparing apples to apples. These are rules, not the laws of the land. There's a big difference. And Commissioner Horner making about speed limit, and it really concerns me. I understand the sheriff's not gonna back up, or like the mask mandate. That is not a law of the land, and it is not the sheriff's position, nor does he have the authority to any mandates and executive orders. You really need to look at the definition of executive orders. If those of you that are wearing masks, if you so choose to, that's your choice. I choose not to. I've been healthy as a horse going on 57. Nothing going on. I choose not to. I can't breathe in the things, plus then I can't see. Yeah, nothing like being fogged up and, but anyway. But let's try to keep in mind and compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. There's a big difference between mandates, your rules, and really you keep calling them rules, but if I recall, it says guidelines. That's even a step down. And laws, the laws of the land. And no, there are certain things, I agree. We all be respectful on both sides. Mutual respect, a two-way street, but it really worries me. I've heard the term before, but checking about what you could do or something. Do we really need to go to that extent to have, what'd you call it, sergeant of arms, or I don't understand exactly, but that makes me feel like I'm pushed back a little further, that you guys don't
Not at
even.
all.
I mean, doesn't that seem like a little
Not at all.
excess show of force, really? To have a discussion, a meeting, and have the public involved? I don't know. But then, like I said, and you made a good point that Sheriff Jarnigan is not going to uphold or back up. It's not in his responsibility to do so. Mandates are not laws. Your rules are not laws. There's a big difference. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sarwood, I will say this. There are some of these rules that are actually in TCA codes.
Well, okay.
Once they become a TCA code, it has been mandated by the state legislative body.
Well, that, okay,
So,
I understand
yeah,
if it
so,
goes further
but
than
some of them
that.
are, and I do think then, if this is a question from the public, I think we need to ask CTAS if indeed how we can enforce the rules that we have, that we're setting forth.
That was one of our
Thanks for your
points
question.
as well, though. Once we did compile them, we want CTAS to review
think
them to
that's
see
smart.
where we stand.
And I think that's
Yep.
what Tim
Yep.
Warner was gonna do.
Yep.
I'm Ann Horner, and the first thing I want to do is thank my commissioner, Bobby Hahn, for representing me today in this meeting. It just thrilled me. And I wanted to make sure he knew how much I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The other thing I have is kind of the same thing Karen was talking about. A sergeant at arms, really? Slander? What defines slander? When I get up here and tell the truth about what I've witnessed in a meeting or something that's going on in my county, something a commissioner has said or done, where are your lines there? what's going to get me thrown out? I don't plan ever to come in here and say anything that is slanderous or out of order. But if I can't come in here and tell the truth about what I see, then that's my concern.
Is that in the form of a question?
Yes.
Okay, I think the intent here is just to keep some civility to it and go with factual information. If
I
it's
understand
factual
that.
information, it's factual information. If it's not really helpful in making a determination.
I get it. But
And it's
I
for both
haven't
sides.
seen any slander going on in here. Now, what happens on the internet, you can't control other people's speech. And they don't represent me.
That's right.
So grouping us all together because some certain things are said in a COAG format, that's wrong. You should look at that individual, not the group. And I think a sergeant at arms is a little excessive.
Well, that's kind of for both sides. It's not just for us, it's to ensure the public safety, because I know, in the extreme, and I know this is kind of crazy, but I went on YouTube and was looking at some other places, county and city administration, where things had got unruly. And there was one, it was a city council member ran into the audience and started whittling away at a guy. And fortunately, they had an officer there to pull him off. I would hope that would never happen, but,
Oh, there's usually an officer in here.
well, there is and there isn't. We just
What
want
you
to
gonna
make
do,
sure
start
that,
enforcing the mask mandate
Well,
or,
you know.
with somebody other than the sheriff? I'm just curious because it leaves a lot of things
It
kind
does,
of up
I'm
in the
sure.
air as to what's okay and what's not okay.
I think public decency and the way you conduct yourself, you know, is no problem at all. But we have had those people that's dug their heels in the sand and refused to comply with the simple request. That
I
was-
did that with the mask.
Well, that's, but I'm talking about some other things, and so
Well,
we do want to ensure the safety and the decorum of everybody here, because I said on the elevator last time we met, you know, hey, we're all in this together. We're all citizens. We're all want the same thing in the end.
I think there might be a few people here that aren't in this together, but I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I don't know what anybody can do about that. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
I don't think you'll ever be thrown out.
Anyone else that'd like to address the committee?
My name's Tony Strazullo. First, I'd like to say that the past few meetings that we've had of this board has actually been a pleasure. Randy, you have been extremely professional. I appreciate that. Everybody else that's on this board, you have been outstanding. And it would be a pleasure to come to commissioner meetings and it be ran in this format where there's this dialogue back and forth and there's a little bit of human decency involved in it. I think I speak for most of us in here. This has been a big surprise. Thank you. I'm not going to repeat anything that's already been repeated because y'all don't want to hear nothing repetitive. But I did email all of the commissioners a week and a half ago. Out of all the commissioners, I got 4 responses. So I can understand where these people are coming from in regards to getting some type of a response back on their emails. It was a very simple email. I got very simple responses, and that's all that I really asked for. And I thank the ones that did reach back out to me. And if you didn't receive an email from me, something's wrong with the email address or something, I didn't get nothing kicked back, let me know. But thank you all for the ones that did respond back. I want to start off, Bobby, you had mentioned that you all get your information for the commissioners a few days ahead of time online. Is that same documents available to the public? Can
Yeah.
we go online and get that
Um,
same?
It's Hamlin County Government, and then it'll have packets. It'll be under packets. And you click packets, and then it'll come up with committee meetings in a bunch of months, or commission meetings in a bunch of months. And of course, you can go back, I think a whole year. I think they're on there for a whole year, but if you want like this coming meeting, you just click, what'll be March, April, whenever our next meeting, April. And yeah, you'll have access to everything that we've got access to.
Okay, I didn't know if you all were getting different information
No,
that
no,
was
no,
available
it's just
online.
on the county website.
Okay, all right. So in regards to these agendas, there's really not a lot of detail involved in them. In regards to why something might be getting sold or purchased, is it a replacement? Is it an additional? And without knowing anything like that, we have no way of responding as a public. And if it's not in here, then that's saying that you all don't have that information as well. You're just basically voting on, sometimes there's not even somebody here at the podium to speak in regards to that. So a little bit of detail on that. And 2 weeks ago, I had spoke about some details on why a vote is being casted and the way it's being casted. I didn't hear any.
It's on that list. It's on that list.
It's on that list?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't hear nothing.
No, it's on that list.
Okay, all right, perfect. So in regards to the 3 minute and the 5 minutes, being able to speak. Now, is there any way that I can go to the mayor's office and sign up for a 1 year, 5 minute time limit to speak instead of going there every other week? I mean, sounds kind of ridiculous. I mean, it really does, because I don't know if I want to speak for 3 minutes. I don't know if I want to speak for 5 minutes. It depends on, what I might have heard in that, comment. So, I mean, like, realistically, I mean, we should just keep it at 5 minutes. Otherwise, everybody's just going to go over there and say they want the 5 minutes. And what if I don't know that I'm going to make it to the meeting in time, So it's kind of like one of those, like, one hand kind of overruns the other, right? I mean, there's always got to be some kind of a loophole around it. And I'm not trying to find that. I'm just, it's kind of, I think, a waste there. What I'm gathering from this evening is that eventually I'm going to be standing in the back over there with this camera. The layout, because of this COVID, the way that you typically have your meetings and the way that you used to have it pre-COVID, where it was more of a, a U-shaped, where everybody was facing the front, I think being in the back probably isn't unreasonable. But sitting where I have been, I can kind of get to see most of y'all's faces. I do have to kind of work around it back and forth, but I do kind of get to see who's talking. From back there, I won't really be able to do that, and I will have to be standing the entire time, right? Which I don't mind doing, but that's if we can maybe hold off before y'all kick me to the back, prior to getting back to the general what it used to be, I'd kind of appreciate that. Also, Randy, you had read a discussion in regards to being able to enforce where cameras are prohibited or allowed to be. Can you reread that to me real quick?
This doesn't state that they're prohibited. It's just that to the extent that this office is and this is a Tennessee Attorney General opinion, and it says, this office is further of the opinion that city governing bodies may regulate the use of such devices, but only in a manner reasonably calculated to serve the public safety, welfare, and interest of conducting a efficient and orderly public meeting.
Okay, so what I gathered in that statement is that those regulations would only be enforced if the public was having a problem with that. The public people. I don't see anywhere in there that it was, because there shouldn't be no disturbance of the camera.
Send it to him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll just send it to you. I'll get with you after the meeting and I'll send it to you. This was from CTAS, and it's a place that the county government goes, just like MTAS, the city government goes to. And so it was actually talking about when it all started, it was in a county in 1995, 1996, that they were trying to remove the cameras. So that's how this started. And this is what I got. So I would just send you this. And then that way you can have the whole thing.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. You know, because I haven't heard anybody in the public that is being in any way, shape, or form annoyed by the cameras.
No, it was for commission. It's for the commission.
But I've only heard of one commissioner that has actually had that has voiced their issue of a legitimate cause of why they don't like the camera to be in that place. So that's kind of one of the things of, you know, if we had a little bit more details on the reasoning, then we would know why, you know, it stands of that. But, you know, if I'm zooming in, I mean, I don't think the camera being there or in the back really is drawing anybody's attention anymore, or am I getting any more different type of a shot or anything? So, you know, if it's not really truly bothering the commissioners and it's not bothering the people that are sitting behind it, I mean, I really don't see why it's such a big deal in regards to, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity of being able to be here and do this. And it's to get the word out to more people. And, you know, I feel that by limiting where I may be able to be, because if there's 2 or 3 more people back there, you know, it might be limited. And a lot of times people of the public like to sit back there. So now we're not giving them that opportunity of where they want to sit. You know, we're back there in the corner. There's not a lot of people that are going to be sitting on the wall that's blocked by where the video cameras are. So it's really a legitimately good spot. It helps us be able to get the face of the people that are at the podium, along with being able to scan around and get everybody else. I appreciate everybody's time. And once again, it's been a real pleasure, and I hope this can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the committee?
Darrell R. Wood. One thing I was going to address y'all, my wife got up here and she already said it, the difference between rules and laws. And it is a valid point. There is a big difference in a guideline/rule and a law. And we need to compare them. Like she said, apples to apples, orange to oranges. The other thing, the camera issue. It was brought up, we're going to do it for public safety. That seems to be the catch-all phrase. My job as an electrician, I was doing this stuff all the time. Well, it's for the safety, it's for the safety. It has nothing to do with the safety. It's just somebody down here pushing something into the National Electric Code because they want to make a sale. Miss Noe has sat right over there for the 1.5 years, and I've been coming here with that camera. If it's for my safety, am I going to run toward her when there's a fire? No, I'm heading toward that way. I mean, how's she affecting my safety? Tonight, Tony sat right there beside me with that camera, and it never bothered me. I mean, how is this disrupting a meeting? Those cameras that those two sit over and operate, if you actually go look at the videos of these meetings, they have better audio and better video than any other source. You can get your information from them. There's also been issues raised here about people coming in here and slander. Well, that brings back to mind, one time my wife and me were talking with Tim Moore, which if anybody don't know him, he is one of the big shot attorneys over here. He's a superstar with the Federal Defender's Office. Me and my wife talking to him one time, and she asked him a question. Said, if a judge has a hearing to determine what the jury can and cannot hear, nope, not going to let him hear that, not going to let him hear that. She said, then you put me on the witness stand. You want to swear me in, and you want me to raise my hand and say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. She's like, how can I take that oath when you've done said I can't tell the whole truth? And Tim Moore himself said, I never thought of it like that, but you got a point. How can you tell the whole truth? When the judge determines, well, this is the truth, we're going to let you tell. Well, it's the same thing in here with the slander. If somebody comes up here and says, you did this, you voted this way, you supported that. You may not like hearing that, but if you did do it, it's not slander, it's the whole truth. You can't sit up here and split hairs and say, well, we don't want that told. That don't work. The whole truth needs to come out. If somebody comes here and says you've done something that you didn't do, and it's a lie, they could be forced to come up here and to apologize. Just as Miss Noe sat up here and got 2 people who had to come up here and apologize to her for lying about her. But if what is said is the truth, let the chips fall where they fall. Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to to address the committee? If not, we're adjourned.